Yes. Okay. Great. This thing is telling me that we are live. Okay. I don't hear an echo, so that's good. If somebody pops in here, can you please tell me whether you can hear me? Because that's going to be important. Oh, goodness. The joys of Facebook. Hey, Kelly. Kelly, can you tell me if you can hear me? That would be so helpful. All right, and if you're popping on, go ahead and say hi in the comments, right? Hashtag live if you're popping in live so that I know you're here. And then if you're catching the replay, right, hashtag replay so that we know that you saw this. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sophia. You can hear me. Awesome. There's also a bit of a lag. So if you do make a comment, which I'd love for you to, because as much as I love talking to myself, no, this is really for you all. So this is meant to be interactive, and we want to make sure that we're supporting you all how we can do best. That was not English. I'm sorry. Hey, Christine. Hey, Cody. Welcome, welcome. All right. So we are going to get started in a minute, but I'm just going to let a few folks hop on because I know it takes a little bit for Facebook to just spread it out into the universe. But how are you all doing? It's Thursday. It took me a while to figure out that it was a sad thing to admit, but I had to like triple check my calendar that I was showing up for you all at the right time. Hey, Kelly. Each day is starting to blend into the next, y'all. It's bad. It's real bad. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm so excited to see so many of you on. As more folks join, say hi. And I hope that you guys find this helpful. All right, let's see if this is working like I want it to. Excellent. So this is our team. We're a 5-member team here in student engagement. My name is Michelle Streeter. I'm one of our assistant directors. I work with student org development and support. And so Kelly Chambers and I do a lot of this work together. I'm sure you all have gotten emails from her before. She's fabulous as well, as are the rest of our team members. And I'm actually really curious. So drop a 1 in the comments if you've interacted with a member of our team before. And I'm doing this because 1, you guys say things like, yes, it's beautiful, but I don't know what you're saying yes to. And 2, I want to learn a little bit about you throughout the course of today's presentation. So like I said, drop a 1 in the comments if you've interacted with a member of our team before. And if you haven't interacted with a member of our team, be sure to keep an eye on your email because we are going to be doing our CIO chats this summer. So CIO chats are an opportunity, awesome, Benjamin, to get to know our team, tell us a little bit about your story, about your organization, and also for you to just have somebody to bounce ideas off of. We can basically help you brainstorm. Awesome, Jessica. So glad to hear that. So we usually do these in the fall, but we know that you guys have a lot on your plate as you're trying to figure out how the fall is going to look. So we're actually going to be doing a series of these over the summer. So you'll get an email from your point of contact in the student engagement office. It'll be one of the 5 folks on this slide, and they'll be reaching out to set those up. So if that's helpful, you can sign up. There's no requirement to do them. So if you're like, this isn't for me, cool. The summer org series will be here for you as well. So we're hoping that between these different things, you'll find the support that you need to get your org started right. All right, so let's talk about setting a foundation for your organization. So what to expect. So we're going to start with talking about setting the foundation, which I know some of you said that you had started planning, which is awesome. And then we're going to dive into contingency planning, which I know is going to be really important, especially with so many things still up in the air about the fall. I'm going to give you a few action items of things that you can start doing today. We'll do a little Q&A at the end, and then I'll also share some of our office's resources, just in case that you have not come across those and there's things in there that could be helpful to you now. Let me preface all of this by saying too, that we know a lot of you are looking for guidance and recommendations on how to manage your activities in light of COVID. We are working on pulling together something more comprehensive for you that will cover this and basically give you some sort of guidelines that you can work from. But in the meantime, I'll say a couple things. So one, today's training is really meant to encourage you to think creatively about how you're delivering your events and services to your members. And so the goal of today's training is to really empower you so that no matter what the guidelines are, you can still move forward so that you're not waiting for information, so that you can start taking action today, because there's plenty of things that you can be doing right now, even if we don't 100% know how everything's going to look this fall. And then the other thing to keep in mind is just like, you can use common sense to navigate some of this too. So keeping in mind like social distancing guidelines as you're starting to envision what if you do events, like what your events might look like, if you do service, if you do performances, that sort of thing. And even just thinking about whether you want to be offering any in-person events this coming fall, and what that's going to look like, keeping in mind that some students will be staying home. And so how are you basically reaching those students as well? And then let's see. So we'll also have, I mentioned that we'd have Q&A time at the end, but feel free to ask questions as we go as well. And I'll do my best to keep track of the comments. And if for some reason, we don't get to something that you asked or I miss your question, I'll be sure to circle back with you after this training because I can go through the comments and find you all. Cool. Let's do this thing. All right, let's talk about setting a foundation for your student work. So hold on, gotta change the slide. Boom. All right, summer really is the best time to be doing this because once the school year gets underway, a lot of the times it's like we're so ambitious, we have all these ideas, and then school happens and you get really busy and it's hard to implement kind of vision. So the goal is in the summer, we're like laying down the foundation and we're putting the pieces in place so that when the school year comes, the goal is execution, right? But some of the hard work is out of the way. So this is an amazing time to be doing that. And that way you'll make sure that you can actually accomplish these goals that you're going to be setting for yourselves and for your organization. So I know that we did a poll on this, but go ahead if you're watching the live, drop a 2 in the comments and let me know if your organization has started planning for the fall. I'm curious to see who's on here. All right, so let's talk about the 5 elements of setting your org up for success and really laying that foundation. So one is going to be communication. I want you to have a plan for how you're going to communicate with your members. And if you haven't already been communicating with your members over the summer, it is not too late to start. Rachel, Sophia, okay, awesome. You guys have started planning for fall. That's amazing. Burke has started planning. Awesome. Regular communication, especially in light of everything that's going on with COVID, super, super, super important. And so this can happen in lots of different ways. So maybe it's happening via GroupMe, maybe it's happening via email, maybe it's happening in meetings, Slack, whatever that is, basically just have a plan and also be consistent with, when you're communicating with your members ultimately, right? Because that's when people will be looking for communications from you. And the goal is to find that sweet spot between overwhelm and under communicating. And I will say that most of us tend to lean towards we're under communicating and we overestimate how much people are paying attention to us. So if you feel like you're under communicating, chances are you need to communicate more. And if you have questions about, your communication strategy or anything like that, you can always chat with a member of our student engagement team during your CIO chat. Drop a 3 in the comments if your org has a communication plan that you feel good about. I'm curious to know if that's something that you all have built in as you started planning and seeing a couple more 2s come in, which is awesome. All right, moving on to delegation. So this is probably the thing that time and time again we hear students say this is the hardest part, right? Because it's like, not only do you have to know what everyone's roles and responsibilities are, you have to trust the people to go do. And sometimes it feels like it's going to be easier to just do it yourself. But the problem with doing it yourself is that once you start doing this, especially if you have an exec team that you work with, you will ultimately set the tone for, I just do everything. And all those people that come in and ask you, hey, how can I help? How can I help? As the semester starts, as things get busy, they'll kind of disappear. And then you will be left feeling very overwhelmed. Also, something that I'm realizing, oh, awesome. Okay, I'm seeing a couple of threes, amazing. Go ahead and let me know what organization you're with and what your position is with the organization. That would actually be helpful to know as well. So go ahead and drop that in the comments. But so delegation is something that we want to start doing early. When we set this habit of delegating, when we just do follow up with folks to check in, see how we can support them, it teaches your team basically that this is how we do business, right? Everyone's got their roles and responsibilities. We trust each other, we support each other, but we're not all trying to do each other's business. And if you're the president of your organization, you're not trying to do everything for everyone, because that falls to disaster real fast. Okay, this one's a little different, but I want you to drop a 4 in the comments if maybe delegation is something you've struggled with. And I just want to say, there's no shame to admitting this. We've all been there, and so you're so not alone in this. But I'm just curious to know if that's a topic that you guys would like to see us go into more in the future. All right, community building. All right, so something else that's really important, especially early on as you're building your team, and I know a lot of your organizations just transitioned in April, is to spend some time building your team. And this is just like, sometimes it's like not even diving straight into business, but just spending some time doing something fun together. And even if it's virtual, and it can be like something as like simple and silly as like, hey, we're gonna just like schedule like an ice cream hour where we're just all gonna sit down and eat ice cream on a Zoom call and just like chat about how our week's going. Okay, folks are saying 4. Okay, yes, delegation is, it's something that we're all continually learning, right? And delegation requires clear communication. So maybe I can't remember if this is on the student org series or not, but if not, we can definitely pull something together in the fall for y'all. And I believe there's a resource about this in the leadership library, which I'll talk about later too. So I want you also to be thinking about each meeting as an opportunity to bring your team closer as well. So as you start, bringing your team together, hopefully to do some of the summer planning, because we're not doing the summer planning on our own, especially if we're the presidents of our organizations, we're bringing our team together. You also infuse some of this like team building into your meetings. So I know for a fact that we have this list of just like icebreakers and things that you can do, but it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It can be as simple as like, hey, we're going to ask this question at the beginning and raise your hand if this is true for you. So make it really easy for folks to engage, but then it starts to create conversation, and then people are like, oh, that person said this thing, I'm going to talk to them, because that's how people are. We're all relationship oriented, but nobody wants to be the first to say something. So encourage people to be able to have a space to easily say something, to easily start to connect. Okay, so drop a 5 in the comments if you've met with your team at least once this summer. And bonus points if it was just to catch up. And if you did do something that was like social-ish, or there was a social part of your meeting, let me know that in the comments too. And then if you are planning on doing something with your team after watching this training, go ahead and drop a 6 in the comments. I'm loving seeing all your numbers, by the way. This is great. Okay. Sorry, a random friend just messaged me. This is the problem with being on Facebook, y'all. Awesome, Sophia, that's great that y'all have met. Okay, so organization, number 4. Organization is huge for not only, keeping track of all the things that your org is doing, but also as we move into transition in the spring, and some of you may experience this even with your own transition. Cody, you're making me laugh. 6, wink, wink. Awesome. So glad you guys are going to get together. And this, like I said, this is an amazing time to be able to do that. Organization is huge, and a lot of you just went through a transition. So thinking about your transition process and experience, what items, if you had them organized, would have been, helpful to have in place? Those are things that you can build into your organization system. So you can do this in Colab, you can do this in Google Drive, you can do this in like Asana, Slack, wherever you want to organize this stuff. But thinking about things like contact lists, budget, passwords, important documents, A central space for organization is a great place to house like meeting agendas, meeting minutes, so that everybody has a place that they can go to, that they know exactly where to find what they need. And what this does is it actually helps you with delegation too. Because if folks are coming to you and they're saying, oh, I don't know where to find this, if you're like, hey, go check the Google Drive. Did you look there first? It starts to teach your folks to be more self-sufficient, so that as the semester goes on, they're able to do their jobs with less of you, which is like, you're doing your job amazing at that point. Cool. Okay, also, still curious, let me know what organization you're with, if you're here live with us, and what your position is, because I'm curious to know who we've got on in here, and I'm really appreciating seeing y'all's comments and stuff. And like I said, if you have questions, drop those in there. Okay, so this is something that I know a lot of organizations struggle with, and if that's your org, that's totally fine. But if you feel like you're on top of the organization game, drop a 7 if you have a solid organization system in place. That was a mouthful. And the other thing I want to encourage too, y'all, as you're like dropping these numbers in here, because we're talking about these different things, if you see someone that like seems to have it together in an area that maybe you're struggling, connect with that person. That is the purpose of this Facebook group. It is a community for student org officers. You are all in the same boat together. You're all figuring this out together. This is a great space to drop your questions, kind of crowdsource ideas, information. Chances are some of you are really excelling in some areas, some of you are excelling in others. And when you combine that knowledge and information, magic, 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 magic. All right, so drop a 7 in the comments if your org has a solid organization system in place. All right, motivation. So this is another thing that we hear a lot about, especially as the semester starts to get further into the semester. And a lot of motivation is making sure that we're spending our time and energy on our current members. A lot of the times the focus is on recruitment of new members, which is awesome, but we want to make sure that we're taking care of our current members so that they feel valued and appreciated. So a huge part of this is showing appreciation for them, checking in with them as people. Your members are not just numbers in your organization, they are human beings with thoughts and feelings. And so figuring out how they want to be involved, what they want to get out of your organization, figuring out who those people are that are like constantly raising their hands, and figuring out how can you get them more involved is an awesome way to encourage and motivate your members. Basically, the more your members are saying yes to opportunities, the more involved they get, the more motivated they are and connected they are and engaged they are, and the more that they will continue to do with the organization. Awesome. Okay. Benjamin says exec team for arts ground guides and unsung people, and a 7, yes, for organization system. Sophia also 7, organization systems. Amazing, amazing, amazing. And you're with Protect Our Breasts, you're co-president. Awesome, 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 awesome. All right, so my dog just decided to show up. This is America. She was born around the 4th of July. So there's that. Anyways, all right. So, okay. So drop an 8 in the comments if you have something in place currently within your organization to either recognize or show appreciation for your members. I'm just curious what kind of recognition or even just, appreciation things you all have in place. All right. That was a very long slide. All right, building your student org contingency plan. So if I had to guess, sorry, there's like dog hair everywhere now. Woo! This is probably the thing that most of you are here for. You're like, how do we plan in these uncertain times? Great, that's what we're gonna do now. Okay, so here's why this is important. 1, it helps you know what your next steps are, even when things are up in the air. And I will say too, that for a lot of us, there's comfort in having a plan. And that's not to say that the plan can't change, but when we have a plan, it allows us to be able to stay more present. We can worry less about the future and focus on taking current action. So if you don't have a plan in place, now is a great time to just build a plan. And if we need to reevaluate, even if, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, we can do that. All right. If your org has started planning for the fall, go ahead and drop a 9 in the comments. Okay, wait, let me rephrase that. If your org has started planning for the fall, drop a 9 in the comments if you have a plan A and a plan kind of B, given that we're in this like weird season of COVID. And then go ahead and drop a 10 in the comments if contingency plan is the primary reason why you hopped on this training today. Drink some water because I'm losing my voice. All right, so let's talk about building a contingency plan. So I've got 5 questions for you all to basically evaluate and create this contingency plan. And the goal here is to check, seize, change, create. With some C words because that seems fun. All right, so the first question is, what are you currently doing? So I want you to really spend some time looking at your current organization practices and really figure out what's working and what's not working. This is an amazing time to just do an overhaul of what do we like, what do we not like? And I think another thing that's really helpful here is to create a list of basically essential services or benefits that you provide your members. And then you're going to use that for the next series of steps. Awesome. I'm seeing some 10s. I'm seeing a 9 and a 10. Perfect. And so the goal here is to figure out basically what do we have in place? And then we're going to ask ourselves these questions with these things. So one, we're going to ask ourselves, what do we want to continue doing? So which of these services or benefits that you offer are essential that you continue doing, and how can you adapt them basically to work in the season that we're in? So for example, if one of the things that you offer is community, you did a lot of that in person, how is a way that you can offer that even if folks are virtual? How can you offer community within kind of social distancing guidelines? What does that look like? And how can you be creative about that? And then as you're thinking about, things that you are continuing, are you planning on moving everything online? Are you continuing things in person? Are you doing a mix of both? And again, like we talked about earlier, how are we engaging members who decide to not return to grounds, right? And you may have some members of your even exec teams that are, mixed in terms of whether they're coming back or not. And so keeping that all in mind, and if you haven't done kind of a poll of your general leadership team to find out who's coming back, who's not, this might be a great time to do that as well. And then the good old question of what do you want to stop doing? So a lot of times, this happens to all of us, it happens to all organizations. There's a lot of things that we're doing that honestly don't need to be doing. We've just been doing them for so long and they've become so normalized in our practice that we're just like, yeah, we do this. But it's like, is it actually having the impact that you want? Is it serving your folks anymore? Is it even relevant? And so this is a great time to, if there was something you were doing where you're like, what would happen if we stopped doing this? This is an awesome time to just practice and stop and see what happens. And then, of course, what do you want to change? So is there anything that you're currently doing in your organization, but maybe you need to shift it? And that could be a temporary shift or it could be a permanent shift. It really just depends. And so this is a really great time to evaluate that. And then there's the question of what do you want to start doing? If there's something that you have a vision for and you want to create something new, once you've evaluated the things that you're already doing, what you're going to stop, what you're going to change, that's when you can create space to do something new. But what I would say is, depending on the capacity that your organization is at, and this is what you can evaluate as part of this process too, don't go creating things without evaluating what you're already doing, because then you just add. And the goal is not to add. It's to serve as best as we can for whatever our org's mission is. So keeping that in mind. And a lot of these things are things that you can control, right? You can get creative too. If typically your organization asks for funding for things, how can you do some of your programs or things without funding? And then if you do get funding, it's like an added bonus, but you're not waiting for the funding. So these are all things to get the wheels turning and be thinking about, and to really spend time with your team and with your membership, kind of hammering down what really is the purpose of your org, because this is the time that's going to stand out and shine. All right, so we talked about the fact that there are some things that you can be doing right now. And if you've started planning for the fall, you might have already started doing some of these things. So a little more interaction with you all. Drop an 11 in the comments if you're like, yes, I love me some good action steps. Not to lie, I love a good checklist. I love a good to do. There's something that feels so good about that. Okay, so number one is to set some goals. Have a few meetings with your exec team. It's still not too late over the summer. Set some goals, involve your membership in terms of their vision for the organization, and then make sure that they're SMART goals, aka that you have some way to like measure the accomplishment of your goals. We're actually doing a training later this summer on goals. So if this is an area that you're struggling with, be sure to catch that in our summer series. And then thinking ahead to recruitment, which I know is something else that's on folks' minds that you're really thinking about. How are you going to get new members in your organization, especially if a lot of you, Cassandra says, is it Cassandra or Cassandra? 11, yes to action plans and checking things off. Yes, my love language is checklist. So good, so good. In terms of recruitment, we actually have a 2-part training coming next week on visibility. This will be huge for you all because I think there's a lot of opportunity in the online space to still attract members. And I know that a lot of your organizations rely on the activities fair. And while there will still be an opportunity to participate in an activities fair for the fall and recruit members, I also want you to be thinking more broadly again and get creative about how you recruit your members, because y'all all have social media. It's free to access. And that honestly in and of itself can be an amazing recruitment tool for you. So we're going to be talking about some visibility strategies that you can use next week. So be sure to catch those trainings. And then like we've already talked about, this is an amazing time to just get creative and come up with some new ideas. This is such a unique time. So this is such an opportunity to try new things. I'm a big fan of the epic fail. So if there was ever a time to epic fail, this is it. So dream big and really say okay, how can we do something crazy and make something really good happen? Because you never know where that will lead you. And then of course too, as you're planning for the fall, I think it's really great to kind of have a plan A and a plan B. Keeping in mind again, we're going to have a mix of students who are in person and online, and what's that going to look like and how does that impact your org? You already know that information is true. Regardless of what the guidelines are going to be about actual events. And so just thinking about that, and again, thinking about the social distancing guidelines that are currently in place, what can you do with what exists? And then how can you be ready to pivot, basically? And then as a final reminder too, I really want you all to dig deep in how you actually serve your members and what benefits they get from being part of your org, because I think that's a huge question we all need to be able to answer. And then the question is how can you deliver those same benefits, even if it ultimately looks a little different? So that is your task for getting creative. All right, we are officially to the Q&A part of this training. So I will hang out here for a minute because I know there's a little bit of a delay, but what questions do you all have for me? And actually, because there is a little bit of a delay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of our resources. And I'm going to, I'm going to talk about our resources real quick. And then I'll show you those slides after, so you have a chance to ask your questions if you have them. All right. So in terms of resources, you already know about the Student Org Officer group, but this group is not just for presidents. So if you have financial officers, marketing officers, event requesters, whatever positions you have in your organization, feel free to invite them to join the group if you all would find it helpful to be in here together. All are welcome, really anyone who's interested in Student Org Officer things. We also have the Leadership Library, which is a resource that's available to you all. There's lots of different topic areas in the Leadership Library. There's worksheets, trainings, information. We actually archive all of these trainings and videos in there, so you can go and download all of the past trainings. You can also find all of these past trainings and future trainings eventually in the unit section of this Facebook group, so that they're there. If a topic's not relevant to you right now, but you get a month or two into school and you're oh, I really wish I knew something about, I don't social media, for example. Hop back into the Facebook group, check the units tab to see if there's any trainings on it, pop into the leadership library, see if there's any trainings in there. And there you go. It'll always be here for you. Additionally, our office is always a resource to you. You can always, so each of you has, your organization has a point of contact in our office. Like I said, you should be hearing from our office soon if you haven't already, to just be reaching out, introduce themselves, offer to set up a CIO chat with you this summer. If you ever have any questions, you forget who your point of contact is, or maybe you transition mid-year and you're like, I don't really know. You can always email studentengagement@virginia.edu. Kelly typically checks that email and she will get you connected with the right person. So we'll get you taken care of regardless of whether you know who to go to or not. And then two, you can also find us on social media as well. So we have our Instagram page is probably like the most active, and I'll show you the links to those sites in a moment. All right, let's see. Questions. All right, Patrick, what are the current plans for a virtual activities fair? So I know that Kelly is working with student council on that. I haven't heard any official word on it. I'll have Kelly or Shapolika circle back with you once we have more information. But unfortunately, we have not rolled out anything official with that yet. But we'll be in touch. In the meantime, make sure you come watch the visibility trainings next week, because I think you'll find them helpful. Any other final questions before I pop off? And of course, if you do have questions, or if you're catching the replay of this and you're like, wait, I actually do have questions, feel free to drop those in here. We can always follow up with you. We'll still see them. Okay, Kelly says yes, stay tuned. Perfect. All right, resources. So we're going to touch through each of these. We're typically located in the PAC in Newcomb Hall. Right now, we're all working from home. At some point, some of us will be available in the PAC again. Don't really know what that will look like 100% just yet. I feel like there's like orange now shining in my face from the other screen. But at least you know where we're located. And then these are the topics that are available in the Leadership Library. If you haven't been in there before, I would highly recommend checking it out. And after this training, I'll drop a link to the Leadership Library so that you have access to that. And I'll also post a link to the Facebook group in case you want to share it with your other student org officers. The link is also, you can just copy and paste it from the top, but we'll make it as easy for you all as possible. And then these are the social media links if you want to follow us on social media. And that's officially it. I am done, folks. So I hope that you found this helpful. It was so fun having you all on here with me live. And thank you for participating and chiming in. We hope that you found this training helpful, that it gives you some good food for thought and kind of like what the next step should be for you all. Like I said, if after watching this training, you're like, man, I'd really like someone to kind of process some of this information with, be sure to sign up for a CIO chat. And like I said, take advantage of using each other as a resource. So if you have questions, if you have things that you're thinking about, if you want ideas for how people are, managing their programming or anything like that, pop your questions into the group and let folks chime in and help each other out. And basically, the more we help each other out, the more everybody benefits, right? And so that is the goal, and that's the dream. So thanks again so much for being here with me, y'all. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your Thursday, and be sure to reach out if there's anything that we can do to support you. Have a great rest of your week.